Hello everybody, welcome back. So I'm going to be working on getting this fun machine put back together. But before I work on the machine, I have been out of town for a couple weeks, and I have been thinking the whole time I've been gone how I'm going to get that motor, see, the motor put back on the bracket, and injury later and everything. I think I figured out a way, but it's really difficult. And I've totally scratched up the bracket for my motor, so I'm going to have to airbrush that and everything. But I want to show you what I had to do. Alright, so this is what I'm talking about. You see all that paint is gone? I was scratching it up so badly I got mad and I just scraped it all off. And I'll come back with a airbrush and paint that. Things happen. But in here, there's this pin that goes through and there's these two springs, okay? This is how they come out. And I have decided, at least for me, it is impossible to put these springs back on this way. So what I had to do is modify the springs slightly in order to get it on. So I've got one on, and then this one's going to go over here, okay? So let me show you what I had to do. I got a little punch that will fit inside of that spring, first of all, okay? And, wow, the other one went on. This one's really tight. I may have to get a different size. Anyway, let me take this over to my other. I have my little wooden vise here that's holding that in. I have another little vise on my other bench, and I'm going to stick this into it. Okay, so this is just a little punch, just something that I can stick this through and hold it. That's all that is. Now, it has a longer part of the spring and a shorter bent part. I want the longer part to be down. Okay. So I'm sticking it down here and tightening it up so that that longer part of the spring is in here, the shorter one is up on top. And if I can do this with you here, we'll see. What I did is get my little vice grips, and I want to unwrap this enough that when it is at rest, these two pieces are almost opposite each other. Okay, so try that for a second. How does that look? Well, right now at rest, they're about 60 degrees. I want 180, so I'm going to do it one more time. Ooh. Oh, actually, that's about right. Okay, so if I pull this out now, you can see those two ends are about opposite each other, okay? So let me go back to the other one. Okay, so I'm going to be pulling this pin out. I just kind of had it put in there halfway. This one that's a little bit bent is going to be over here on this side. This one that is longer is going to be laying up against this bracket on that side. But I kind of need to get right in here, and this is really in the way. So let's see if this is going to work. And you have to be really careful to keep things from popping out as you go. So if I had known this before, I probably wouldn't have scratched it all up, but learn as you go. Okay, so I'm pushing that out enough that I can get this side in. That's a little more, Marie. Okay. Okay, and this way. All right, making sure this end, this longer end here is coming up. All right, now while trying to hold everything from exploding, I'm going to push this pin back all the way through so it'll come out here. I had to hurry up and grab a screwdriver to hold it. And it popped out. But trust me, this is a lot easier than the other way, so while I was trying to turn the camera back on, it looks like I let this go. But I'm just going to move this little end piece back over here, and this one like that. Push it through. But the key is unwrapping your spring so that it's like that. That is the only way I think it's possible. And then as this bracket is being held on, I think that the constant compression is going to move it back to the other position. Eventually, maybe not, who knows. All right, I got it in, And before everything blew apart, I put that little cotter pin back there. I know my light is bad. Hang on, let me try to plug something in here. Do not do well at technical videography, I can tell you that. Well, that's about as good as I can get. But I want to show you, even with adjusting those springs that way, you really have to like come down and push this really, really hard. Well, actually, it was tricky because you have to push it this way and hammer over here while making sure this side is still lined up. But it's possible. It's possible. You can see I still have a very, very strong snap there. And I am looking right now at a video of when I took it apart. And I really hope that's correct. I think it is. It looks like it. But I am going to need to come in, and I can, you know, mask this off and with a little airbrush and some red paint come in and clean that up so it'll look better. But yeah, that was tricky. Oh my gosh, that was terrible noise. Sorry about that. So there you go. That's back on. I guess these are very similar to the way white rotary ones are put on, so maybe that'll help someone. Maybe, maybe not. But to me, the trick is unwinding those springs. Yeah. So let me take this back in the paint booth. I'm going to put some red paint in there, let this sit and dry, and then we'll get started on the machine itself. Okay, welcome back to a couple days later, and I'm going to try to get started putting this thing back together if I can, and if I can keep my camera on the thing. I actually put a small advertisement, or at least I sent to all the local high schools and colleges an advertisement. Let's see what they do with it, saying I would like to hire a local videographer and editor so that, you know, they can do the filming and I won't have to. But you know, that is just in the works. So I want to get this big wheel on first, just because this has these big threads at the end, and honestly they hurt your fingers to turn it, you know. All right, so these are the pieces for the wheel. And let me move the stitch length stuff over here out of the way. We have a washer with 3 ball bearings on it, this flat washer, this one with a prong, the screw, and a little piece of felt that is like an oil wick. So I'm going to go ahead and get some oil on and just try to saturate this thing because it's still flexible. So I'm hoping that it will still work, and then I'll just set this aside for one moment. All right, so if you saw the taking apart video on this, you know how much I thought this. I decided I'm going to hold off on doing the wheel until after I get this stitch length in. So I have the machine laid down in hopes that I can do this. Now there's a bushing here, and right now there's a set screw that'll hold the bushing, okay? Right now I don't have that in because I needed to push the bushing way past its set point just to get this screw in because it's very long. And now that the screw is in the back, this little arm here has that little thing down there. It's a little nub that sticks out. I need to get that lined up with the shaft that is on this. There's a hole in this shaft that a little nub is going to go into. A lot of wiggling. Oh, yeah, I think I've got it. I think I've got it. Let me put a little oil on that. Let's see if that will help. But I know this is a really bad angle, and I'm really sorry about that. I'm just trying to get everything pushed in a really awkward position here. And it's being tricky and not wanting to go in. So give me a second while I have to take it off, so I'm going to show it to you anyway. This is the little nub I'm trying to get in, okay? And you can see this part right here, this is the bottom of it, that has the hole that this is going to need to go like this and slide into while this is going through this bushing. All right, I think I got it in there. So now what I need to do is on that bushing there is a little hole. Line that little hole up with this screw hole and get that set screw in just part way so that the bushing will hold tight, and then I can cinch in this screw right here. Okay, now there is a screw end here, and it's lefty-tighty. It's reverse threaded, screwing it from this side. Okay, so I'm just kind of pushing over here and then turning this, and I need to get this cinched up. Well, I have it, I think, way too tight now because that lever won't move. So I'm turning it to the right just enough so that this lever can move well. I don't want it really loose because I want it to have some resistance, you know. So that's what that spring is for. It gives it just enough resistance to hold its position. I think that is good. I'm hoping that is good. This was the part on this machine that was giving me nightmares. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Okay, so let me get little pieces to go on here out. Just a plate. All right, so let's put this little plate on here and get my forward and reverse lined up. Get my little screw starter. Okay, forward and reverse. I will tighten them up momentarily, but I need to now, I have that little spring taped on here. Let's see if I can take this off with gloves on. Okay, that fought me way too hard. So I'm going to squeeze this together, and then this goes over the top of it. If I can get it started. All right. It's like squeezing that thing in while screwing down. And that is because this screw, it's kind of like an adjuster. So if you, let's see here, down is reverse. Is that all the way? Is that all the way down? Feels like it should go farther down. Oh, please don't tell me something's wrong. I should have checked this before I actually did it, you know? All right, so back to this wheel. So this little piece of felt gets stuck in the sides here. Come on. So that's stuck on that side, and I think it plumped up here. Hang on. This little oily side. Come on. There it goes. All right, so that is stuck there all the way in on that side. Need to push this one in a bit more, I think. I just had my camera turned off, and I'm really frustrated with myself because I'm going to have to show you over. Anyhow, the way this thing is going to go together is the first thing you do is put on the wheel, okay? Once the wheel is on, before you put this little wick in, you're going to slide this piece on. It's a little washer, and it slides down those grooves. Then putting my oiled up wick in this little slot there, okay? Then I'm taking this piece, and the side that's just raw bearings goes up against this washer, the side that has, it sticks out more, the metal's kind of bent out, that goes out. Okay, so those ball bearings are going to rotate easily. Then there's a flat piece that's up here that I've already pressed on, but it's this little washer, and it snaps over, has little holes that snaps over these nubs, and you can still get to the screw. All right, so that screws into this threaded area. And remember, that's oiled. Okay. So that is on. Now there's this really long screw here. It's going to go in there. Sorry about that. And I need to get a smaller screwdriver, obviously, and tighten this up. Now, if this isn't going to work, then I need to flip that washer with the one tooth sticking out. I need to flip it the other direction. So we'll see here. All right. It's a long screw. All right, so if that's in, can I turn it just a bit and release the clutch? Yeah, it feels like not. So I'm thinking I need to flip that little Q-shaped washer over a different direction and do all of this again. All right, I think I've got it right now, because if I hold this wheel and I can turn it, it doesn't stop. I mean, if I really force it, I can keep going, but it does hit a spot where it doesn't turn. And I won't know until I have everything else on if that actually disengages the needle, but for right now I think it does. If I need to change it later, well, then I can. Because with that washer, there's really 4 different positions it can be in. So we're just going for our best gut instinct at this time. And I'm about to get started with stuff on the bottom, but I realized I did not put this little piece of trim work back on, and it will bend very easily, so I want to do that, because that's nifty. So let me stick this little pin in there, and I will tap that in a moment, and then there's another little pin that's going to come in here, and I'll just tap that on. Okay, so at this point I'm going to start working on things below. So first I did put some oil in here. That is clean. That's like a copper pickling stuff. And we have a little groove worn there. There's a hole for a pin down here. So that's going to be part of the first part that's going to come in here. Hold on one sec. Okay, so I'm going to slide this through first, and then slide this through. What I was looking at is this piece. It looks very similar on both sides, but I made a note to my first video that this side here is going to go towards the center. Okay, so this piece here is then going to be able to slide over that. Okay, so what I need to be able to do here is line up this pinhole with this hole right here, if you can see, and there's a pin that's going to go through there and hold that together. I believe it's one of these guys. But before I put the pins in, I want to make sure I know what I'm doing with everything. Down here at this end, this little square, lifting it up a bit, this is a square bearing, and it's going to pop on the end here. I think I have that backwards, flipping it around. Oh my goodness, the way that this wheel is shaped, it's going to give me grief. I'm going to need to find something to prop this up. I've got it propped up, so we're here at a different angle. So now I'm going to push this little square bearing thing on there. Okay, I'm going to put more oil so that it will rotate if it needs to. All right, that looks good. Now this piece here is what is going to slide up and down on here. So let me make sure it fits and I have it the right way. Do I? Or does this have to turn? Oh, come on. Seriously, why are you making this difficult? I'm trying to figure out why this is not sliding in there easily. It is just way super tight. Oh my gosh. I don't even know. That's way too tight. It needs to be able to slide. So let me work on it. I was trying to put it on the wrong way. So on this little thing on one side, there's like a little round bearing looking, a little circle, okay? That circle goes up against here, the slidey part not there. So now I should be able to slide this on there and push this whole thing up, lining it up so that the end of that shaft super, come on. How is it going to work? It's got to line up. It has to. Maybe it's upside down. I think that's it. Okay, all right. So now we're on here. I'm going to take a quick look at my before pictures and just make sure that that is what it looked like. All right, my battery on my camera died, so I had to move things around here. Okay, there we go. And if I turn this light on, I think we are in business. So while I was doing all of that, I went ahead, pushed this back in and tapped in this pin and this pin, hoping for the best. I put oil in here and here. Now this little slidey piece, if you see there's a groove here, and I can kind of see a mark right there. So I am assuming that this set screw is going to line up right in the center of it, right about here. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of tighten that in. It's a slit instead of a set hole, so I'm guessing it's somewhat adjustable. It's right about there. Why is it not wanting to stay, you know? All right, so at least that's there. This piece is going to go on. There's a little oil hole right here. I'm going to put some in there also. And then there's a hole right here that's kind of like a clamping position. And I'm going to put this screw here back in. And wrong screwdriver entirely for this. Let me go grab a different one really quick. Okay, so with that in, if I turn the wheel, right now it looks like everything is turning as it should. I'm really hoping that I have this incorrectly up here. We will know as soon as we can, I guess. So let me go ahead and get the next set of pieces down here for the bottom. Okay, I flipped my machine backwards, so I'm looking at the back side here. And this is probably not the correct order to put this together, but I'm kind of following the way that I disassembled it. I'm kind of like reversing it. So we will see soon. I'm just putting a little bit of oil over here. This is a big shouldered screw. It's got some grooves worn in it. It's seen some things, you know. I feel like this is threaded. I know this screw gave me a lot of grief when I was taking it apart. And yes, I know it's not the right time. I just want to do it as I took it apart, you know? So maybe 2 or more Kenmores down the road, I'll have a better handle on it and be ready to do the proper sequence. But for now, This is what you're getting. So with that in mind, don't think that this is the end-all video of how to work on these things, because it is literally figuring it out as I go along. Okay. That feels pretty good. I'm going to get it cinched on a bit here. All right. So with that on, there are 2 pivot points that are going to go over here. So if I move this to the end, those pivot points need to set in here, which tells me this is not in the correct position here. So if I turn it, I'm going to loosen up that screw so I can move it in, because these 2 points have to be centered right there, you know? So let me loosen this up a hair, scooch it over. Now on these pivot points, one has a little groove worn in it, and that is the one that goes on this side. So, and the reason it has a little groove is because there's a little pin there, and I'm not taking that pin out, so we are going to hope for the best at this point. Okay. So basically, I want to get this centered first. Once I have this centered in place, then I'm going to go ahead and tighten up that screw and just put it wherever it needs to be for this centering to happen. Okay. So give me a sec. This is what I'm working on. I have a feeling I'm going to need to adjust this even more once I know where this is going to be placed. So we're just going to kind of call that good for now. And it's moving. This one is tricky. That pin is making this tricky because it's not a true pivot point. It's got this bar going through it. And I can tell that they put the pivot point in and then drove that pin in later. So anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that for right now. Go ahead and put these nuts this way over the ends, and I will make this final adjustment later on. Okay, welcome back to the next day. See if I can situate you. I just wanted to take a break from her and all of herself while I get myself situated. So let's go ahead and get this put back in. As you can see, that slides over this area. I've got a couple pivot points that go on each end. Now I can tell you, these pivot points down here, the little nuts were extremely hard to loosen up. They did not, it felt like they were not threaded right. And like on this one, I'm trying to thread it from the outside, and I just couldn't down there. So I had to do it this way and get it all the way through like that, you know. As you do, but these are all cleaned up now. So let me go ahead and get this one started up here. And the same over here on this end, same kind of pivot point situation. I have these just kind of placed in there. I don't know if it's the right setting because see this bracket that's attached to, that's where the feed dog's attached, down there. And I won't know if this is in the right position until I get the front plate on, which, you know, goes right here. Not happening yet. So if I need to move the feed dogs more one way, ow, my cat's grabbing me, that way or that way, that's when I would loosen or tighten these so that the whole bar would move one way or the other, okay? Now, down here to this end, why are not you lining up well? Hold on one sec. All right, I have this little nut. situation here. And these, I don't know, everything on this machine, it's not that they're rusty anymore. Excuse me while I adjust here. It's not that they're rusty, it's just that it seems like the threads are not as well aligned as in a lot of Singer machines. I just don't know. It feels like I'm going to need to move this whole bar that way. That way just a little bit, because this feels really tight right here. Which could mean that I actually need to move this a little bit more. So give me a second. I'm going to loosen this so that this can move that way and the whole bar can move that way so that this is not so tight. Okay. Okay. So if I move my lever, why aren't you moving, little lever? Hang on. Okay, it was stuck for some reason. If I move this lever up and down, is it adjusting that? And yes, it is. So I'm going to place this in here, like that. It's kind of locking in place. This piece is just up above. This is nice and clean now. Putting this piece under here. Then there's this little lever down here. I'm going to squeeze, and when I squeeze that lever, it should move this out of the way. It's got a very heavy spring on it, which is understandable. There. Okay, so that is snapped in place there. All right. All right. I have this. You can see it's got like a groove cut into it. That's a nut, and then this really cool little shouldered screw, and that's what holds this piece on, and it needs to be aligned so that the little piece can slide back and forth where that special little washer thing is. So I'm just going to get that put on, and again turn it and make sure I haven't blocked anything. This up on a pool noodle. Hang on a sec. Okay. And that actually does feel a bit tight, so I'm going to back it off just a hair. But honestly, there's so many things that are very loose right now. It's probably not a good indicator. Anyway, it does move, so that's good. Okay, I've got this little thumb clip here that needs to go on. Yeah, let's see how I can put you so you can see what I'm talking about here. All right, so there's a little hole right here, and this tiny little spring sticks inside of that hole. Okay, now the end of the spring, it's hanging out there, is going to go up against this little piece here. Okay. So as the end of the spring is pushing on that, I'm going to raise this up over here and screw it in right there, okay? And this is the little shouldered screw that's going to make that happen. Okay, so now that that is in, check and make sure that it's actually going to spring back, because it's easy to get something, you know, just kind of bound up right there. But that is good. This is for releasing the bobbin, okay, because that kind of holds it in place. So you push that, and then you can pull the bobbin out. And finally, I'm going to need to put my feed dogs back on right here. This bracket is where it's going to go. And this was a bugger to get off. Like everything on this machine, extremely tight. I just don't even know why. But you can see, in theory, it has a slide here so that if your feed dogs need to be higher, you can loosen up the screw and pull it up, or lower, you can push it down. Actually, I think that's the wrong screw. It needs this one with its little washer. But this is so tight. It's not going to move very easily. I had to really punch it out with my hammer. You know what? I am going to open that up a bit. I've made the executive decision, so give me a second. I'm going to get my Dremel and just clean up those sides a little bit. I wanted to show you real quick. Basically, it's these little green, very, very lightly abrasive rubber wheels, and I did the inside up there, but I'm also doing the side on the feed dog itself. And hopefully, between all of that, it's going to fit better. Hopefully. I may need to do it a little bit more because it still feels tight. All right, so just to make sure I'm doing it the right way, what I've done is got my little plate out, and I just holding my feed dogs behind it, you know, making sure that I've got that little feed dog piece in the right way. And that is the way it is supposed to go. And I've done a little more work on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and tap that down. Well, at least I can tap it down with my fingers now. That's an improvement. And get it screwed in. There is a little washer that goes right behind the head of the bolt. Okay, so right now I have that so the hole is right about halfway, and I think hopefully that will be good, because even though I did my best to clean it up, it's still a little bit tight. So yes, you can adjust it, but you're going to have to tap it. So, and I don't feel like abusing this machine any more than I need to right now. For a laid-back hippie bus, she's very uptight, if you know what I mean. Okay, all right. I was working on getting things aligned, and you can see I have the plate on there because I wanted to get the alignment of the feed dogs and tighten that up. But while I was doing that, I was realizing I had something, I don't know, not quite exact with this. So I just took it apart, put it back together, you know, that whole little thing in there. And now I do have the full range of motion, which is good, which should help me adjust things on the bottom a lot better. But I'm going to go meet one of my girlfriends for lunch, so I will have to do this afternoon when I get back. But working on a machine that is new to you is always exciting, you know? Just do what you can do, and when you get to a place that seems frustrating, walk away. Seriously, just walk away, and then when you come back, you'll have fresh eyes. So I'm not terribly frustrated at this point. It's just there's a whole lot of, you know, adjustments, and I just don't feel like it. Oh, one other thing. Last night, remember, this was really stiff here, too, that movement. What I did is I put a little bit of a lapping compound. I use 450 grit. Just a little bit on there, and turned it with my hand because I don't have the motor on it, but it's moving really, really freely right now. And then once it was done, I could just use a Q-tip and pull it off. It's an oil-based compound, so that's all fine. So yeah, right now it's moving great down there. When I get back from lunch, I will probably, hopefully, finish this up. And I have reached that terrible, terrible part of the process that happens sometimes when I have the extra screw. So I'm going to take a moment, go back and look at my take apart video and see if I can figure out where this extra screw came from. It has a tiny little shoulder. So I will be back with you later. All right, my extra screw that I did not put properly before is this one right here. And it is basically going in and holding this one, which is the slidey one, from ever coming loose. That kind of just goes up against the threads to hold it in place. So that's what it is. Right now, I'm thinking things are looking good. I can see the feed dogs coming up and down in the slide plate about where they should be. So that is good. While I am down here, because I am not putting her in a box, I'm going to try to just run her on her little end caps. I guess I should put her upright and make sure that that will actually work before I go any further. Yes, everything does turn. Okay, I bought a set of miscellaneous sized little rubber end caps because I wasn't too sure exactly which one I needed. But It looks like they might even be 2 different sizes. So if I can pop these on, I may have to heat them up or something and push them on really tight. I think that that's going to work for little feet and keep it from, you know, scratching up a table surface or something. So that's my thought. And actually, I think that's pretty cool. Let me get them situated. These up here, I'm probably going to have to trim a bit. I don't know if I need to put an adhesive in here or not. I'm going to hope for not, just in case. But there you go. And that's a nice, sturdy little surface there. And hopefully it will hold it securely. Alrighty, so those are on. If you're interested, I got these off Amazon, and it just was in a 50-piece round rubber end caps. You know, 8 millimeters to 9.5 millimeters. So, yeah, they had them in all different kinds of colors and everything like that. So that's where they were. Alrighty, now I'm going to lunch, so I will see you back here shortly. Okay, so I opened up the plug, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so this is the side that does not have the colors written on it. And it looks like I have my white one way over here on the side, the red one in the middle, and the solid black one over here on the left. All right, well, that whole electrical wiring thing is not happening. So Bob Fowler gave me the link to where at Central Michigan Supply I could buy a whole new one. And that is what I did. So hopefully soon it will be back. It will be here. Until then, I'm just going to proceed making sure this bobbin winder is back on. I feel like it's a little loose. Remember this bobbin winder, it was one of those things where it was just kind of riveted together, so I couldn't really take it apart. And see how that feels kind of loose? It kind of just is what it is, though. So, if I push this back all the way, that should put this up where it touches, and it turns, and it does. So that's good. Oh, and when I was buying the new cord, I also bought the new little friction post or rubber part that's going to rub on here. They do sell those there, so if you have a Kenmore or a white, that could be handy for you. So at this point, I've done a couple little things. I put the spool pins back on. I just loosely put this on because I wasn't too sure exactly where to line it up. And if this is where the bobbin is, let me just get a piece of thread and show you. I would need the thread to come straight down. Oh, it's hard to do this with a camera in my face. Okay, so in general, here is that. And so I'm thinking like this maybe right here. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten up that screw like that, okay? Because that's the thread guide for winding the bobbin. Okay, so with that, I put fresh shrink tube over my light. I've got my little grommet. I've got to push this in, have it come across the top of the main shaft, and somehow get the end to come out this little hole. So I'm just going to be fishing in here for a bit. When I get it through, I need to have another grommet over here that I'm going to need to put in there and have it come through, and I need to pop that in. So that's my first step. So feeding this through so it comes in one hole and out the other is a real pain, just letting you know. My wire with a little bit of blue tape on it is the one that goes in the middle. This one goes on the end. But what I was able to do is fish a long zip tie through that pathway. And I am going to attempt to zip tie the end here of this to my, sorry, darn it, cat just clawed me, hold on. All right, so I got it through here. Amazingly enough, this old grommet, it's so hard, it was not gonna go through, so I replaced it with a little new rubber one. And I did put a new LED bulb in. Hope it works. I honestly haven't tested it yet, so maybe I should do that before I go any further. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this little door back on here. It's a little screw. Tightened up. I can find my other screwdriver. All right, so I've got the machine set aside. I can't really test it out or even plug it in until I get my new cord that I've ordered. So this is not an extreme hurry at this point. I think I might actually call it good for tonight and then come back tomorrow with fresh eyeballs to put all of this together, because that's pretty important. But isn't that cute? I think it's cute. I did not want to do the official Volkswagen emblem because, you know, it's not an official Volkswagen product. But all of these pieces go in here. And they've all been cleaned up. There's the original needle. Not sure if I'm going to use it or not. But they have all been cleaned up and they're ready to go in. So tomorrow morning I will be back. Hello and welcome to another day. Another day with the Hippie Bus. I'm going to try to get this front plate put together. I can't finish it off today because I am waiting on the new power cord and everything. So we're just going to have to be patient there. I'm going to put this outside little plate on, polished up looking kind of brass, which is neat. So I'm just going to pop this on right now so I don't forget about it later. Looks like I have a couple little screws, so let me get that screwed on. Actually, you know what? I think that's a bad idea because the bottom one's going to screw in really tightly, but the top one doesn't. And I think that's because it screws into part of the tension mechanism back here. So I'm going to set that aside for a moment. Okay, I'm going to kind of try to put this on like the reverse order of how I took it apart. Doing my best here. So I've got my little bracket like this. And you know what? I'm going to put a little bit of oil on this piece here. Okay, this sits on top of that bracket. There is a washer that goes below it, down here, between the bottom of it and this little nub right there. And this is a tricky wicket to keep all that together. Okay, so I'm going to need to go get the little shaft that goes up the middle of it, but that's kind of how that's going to sit. Well, pretend it hadn't fallen over. All right, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to push this down, come through here, through here, through there, and through this washer, and through the bottom here. All right, like that. Well, I've got two issues right now. First of all, this was upside down. It goes this way and threads through. But the second issue is, see that little hole? A cotter pin goes in that hole, and I am having a hard time finding it. So I'm going back and looking through all of my little parts. I just don't know. Maybe it got stuck in one of the other bags. So let me do a little search and see if I can find it. I really don't know where it went. So I got a big staple. I'm kind of forming this staple into one, you know. Sometimes you do what you need to do. Okay, my little staple thing broke. But as I was looking through here, I did find a cotter pin in here with my tension unit. I really hope I don't need two cotter pins because I don't remember. But this looks a lot like what I'm looking for. So that's what I'm going to be using, hoping for the best. So I've got my little cotter pin back in there underneath that washer. And when I was taking it apart, I had measured this distance, because this threads up. It's like reverse threaded to get that threaded up, and it's very, very tight, very tight. But I had measured that before and came up with 12 millimeters, so that's what I've got now. Hopefully it works, you know. This is for putting more pressure on the presser foot, I think. I believe. So let me knock that over there, like that. While I am over here, I'm trying to put things that are closest to the back side on first. This is actually for adjusting the tension. I'm going to go ahead and get this put back on. It has a little spring-loaded washer here. So let's get that on. I want it on tight enough that this will hold its position, and I think that will. That gives a little bit of flexibility to that washer. Yeah, I think that's fine. Like I said, I'm holding off putting that outside thing on, because if you can see, this hole is a lot smaller than that hole. On that one, the screw just falls straight through. So that's what we have on the outside right now, and this is the inside. Actually, I've decided again, I am going to go ahead and put this on, but only put on that lower screw right now, just so I don't lose it, you know, and then I can put the upper one on when I put the rest of the tension mechanism together, which will be coming along very, very soon. Okay. And I'm also putting this screw back in here. I never did quite figure out what it does, but this is where it goes. So, you know, getting it in there. I'm not cinching it in really hard right now. You can see it does come all the way through. So, and this is the one that the, oh, I just had a thought. Okay, so this is the one down below, right here, where the bolt that mounts the plate on is. And I'm thinking if it needs to be adjusted so it's out just a hair, if you tighten that up, it could push up against it and still hold it securely. I bet that's what it's for, positioning it this way. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Okay, so continuing with presser bar kind of stuff. This is the lifter lever, and it gets screwed onto this outside position right here. I believe like so. And I have a bolt, a shouldered bolt, and a little washer. So the little washer goes on this side. There's a little piece of the casting that kind of butts out. That part is the side with the washer. And the bolt goes in from the other side here. Okay. That's how all of that goes together. And I need to get it screwed in this little hole down here, right there. Okay. So at this point, with it screwed in all the way, it can still move freely. That is what I want. All right, so we have this block, has a step in here. There's a bigger screw and a smaller, more set screw here, okay? I need to slide it in, so the bigger headed screw is on top. Slide it in here. Okay, so now it's in there, and make sure that it can go up and down freely, and it can. All right, and now this is the bottom of my presser bar. This is the top. Okay, and I'm going to slide this in. And it needs to be able to go up through here and then through here, through this spring. Okay, and all the way to the top, like that. And you're going to need to reach through here to adjust these two screws for its final position. All right, so make sure you have a small screwdriver to be able to reach in there. So let me just, it's backed out enough, I think, that I can just push it up, because I just kind of set them in place in there before I did this. Where's that dimple? There it is. All right, so I can kind of see where that is, and I'm going to line it up and push it in so that it's where it needs to be, and screw this. And I'm hoping it's just going to kind of settle in there. Yeah, I can wiggle this and feel that it's in the little divot there. So I'm going to pull this bar up a bit so I can reach in and tighten that up. And that should set my position up and down, okay? And I've got this extra one over here just for funsies. All right. So I can see that this is activated on this spring now. So now I can loosen up that pressure or make it stronger. Okay, that's what that does. Alrighty, lots of pressure there. I think that is good for right now. Alright, let's work on the tension. First, I'm using the outside pieces here. Set that little cog on. Get my spring. There's a tiny piece of the spring that sticks out there. Okay, that part that sticks out is going in that little teardrop shaped area. Oh, everything is moving. Where's my little hole? Hang on a second. You know what I'm going to do? First of all, I'm going to move you. I got to move you somehow. I don't even know. I'm going to stick a piece of metal through there so that it will, well, that's too big. So that that will stay in place. Okay. Slide this down here. Over there. I have my wire going on top of this little bracket. I have a screw and a tiny little washer that goes behind it, okay? And that is what's going to go in here. Tighten that up, just like that. Okay, so I've got that on, so if I flick this, it's got some tension, it's holding in place there, like that, okay? Now, this piece here, I need to slide this inside that hole. This little spring is going to kind of come through this slot. Let's see here if I can do it this way so you can see what I'm talking about. Can you see the layer with that spring right here? Watch that. There's a big flat tension disc here that's going to go underneath it. This big one is underneath it here, and then this is on top of it. It's very hard to do this for the camera. Okay, and then over here, it flicks onto that post that sticks out. All right, so you should be able to see that spring. The little head of the spring has to come all the way through here. Hang on. Trying this one more time. Give me a sec. I think the other times I've done one of these, I actually screw all this on afterwards, and that probably would have been easier, but life, you know. Do you see that tip of the spring there? I probably should have put this on after. That would have made my life easier. So I'm going to back this screw out here so I can move that spring a little bit easier. All right, there we go. Because I want the spring to be visible up here. All right. And so with that, I'm going to still put this over the edge, pop this straight down. I can see that spring. I need to make sure it goes over the little nub in the casting, like that. Screw this down again, so my spring is still springy. Now very carefully flip this over. This hole is going to get pushed on here, and the top of this is going to get over here underneath this little tension lever. And I needed to stick it under there as I was sliding it. Hang on a sec. I have to slide this back down again a hair just to get it back under there. It's not working. I'm going to loosen up. Again, totally wrong screwdriver, I know. Loosen this up so I can work it over the top. Come on, come on, come on. All right, did you see what I was trying to do is get this little up and down lever on top of that spring? And before I screw everything back in, I want to make sure that it is still over it. So I'm going to lower it quite a bit down here. Put this washer on and the little screw on top of it right there, okay? And that's going to hold all of this in place. This is over the little nub in the casting, and this spring is underneath this lever. Okay, so I got that spring washer back underneath where it needs to be. And I need to tighten this up a little more. There it goes. Okay. So the lower this lever is, the harder it's pushing down on that spring, which causes more tension. The higher this is, the less it's pressing down on that spring, which causes less tension, okay? And that looks pretty secure from the front. This spring, once again, is above the little nub, and it is springy, so we know that is good. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put some of the presser bar things together. So, just get this put on here. There's a little bar on this side that sticks out, you know, to tell you where that goes. So then this tightens up over here. There is a thread cutter that goes here. I believe it is this way. I need to go double check, but I believe it's going to go on this way like that. Okay. Trying to get this in here. Everything's very tight on this machine. I've said that a lot, I know, but I feel the need to repeat myself. I need to cinch that in just a bit more. I feel like that's the wrong size screw. It feels like it's the wrong size screw. Hang on a sec, let me just see. I mean, it fits in the hole, but I'm gonna go double check. Okay, I was looking at the video of when I took it apart and it just was always loose, so, you know, there you go. So this is it, looking at it, you know, from the front of the plate here. We have the flat here, and there's this little washer, and it just kind of slides over because it has rings, not rings, hooks that come over the edge, okay? So I need to push that up onto here, and as soon as I get it threaded up enough that that washer can sit over the flat part, we're going to make that happen. So let's see here. Looks like right about here. Okay. Turning these so that washer can just sit in there. If you can see what I'm talking about while I turn this up. Okay, so I'm just kind of holding that washer still while I'm turning this so the whole thing can move up. Okay. Then this screw goes into the bottom. And I'm going to tighten that up all the way. All right, so to put the really cool little spring-loaded foot on, if it's this way, then this is the front. I slide that on like that, and then tighten this little nut down. All right, so there you go. Thread cutters in the back. All is good there. All right. Actually, I'm pulling this foot off right now just because I need to be able to get in here to put the presser bar on. So that's going to go away for a second. The presser bar should slide up in here. You know what, I need to clean out that hole just a bit. All right, so as I am sliding this up, I have this piece. Okay, it's kind of a little more than half circle. The flat side is over here. Okay, sliding that up, which is what this is going to hook onto. Okay, so I'm just going to set that aside for a moment there. And what I am looking for is this point right there. You see that little nub? I'm going to line up the center of this with that little nub and find the right screw to cinch it in, and I believe it is this one. I'm trying to hold it very still so it doesn't move. Yeah, that feels like it's right. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is as high as it goes because it kind of hits its uppermost point right there, you know. Let me put a little bit of oil in here. The side that had the little C circle on it is the one that goes over this. Again, very tight. This isn't going to actually attach to the little nub that's sticking out of the front cam on the machine itself, and that's what's going to make this thing go up and down like that. It's moving very freely, which is good. That actually doesn't belong there. And this is all part of keeping the needle on down here. I might go ahead and put that on too right now. Can't hurt. But I did this wrong. See that little set screw area? That set screw is actually what goes over that little nub. So I need to loosen this, get a different screwdriver is what I need to do. Okay, loosen this one. Rotate this so that that little nub is showing through this side. Where are you, little nub? There it is. Okay, make sure that's the only nub on here, and it is. All right, that is going to show through here. And I need to get this little set screw. There's a big set screw and a little one. It's the little one with the very sharp side. One side is duller and this side is more pointy, okay? The pointier, smaller one is what hits the nub. If I can find it again. There it is. Okay. And I figured that out when I went to put the needle clamp back on because it was on the wrong side. So there you go. Okay, so with that up, now I can turn this upright, cinch that in, and now hopefully this is going to go on correctly, and I can put this little screw on, which cinches the needle on here. Okay, and then this is going to go on like that. The only thing I have left here are these bolts, which are going to attach it to the machine, but there are also these little end cap pieces here. Oh goodness, just set that aside for a minute. This one that goes over the presser bar, it just pushes in, so I'm going to go ahead and tap that in. And the same thing with this one as a thread guide. I need to look. I can't remember if it's off to the side like that or frontwards and backwards. I'm going to go take a peek. All right, that's a pain to tap in. I ended up having to put in my wood vise sideways with a rag and then tap it up here, because you can't just hammer up here, else it's going to bend all of that. You know, ask me how I know. But I put a little tap right here and hammered that. But I mean, this thing's about done, and this screw is still out here. And I don't remember a little nut or anything being on there, and it feels like it's just way too loose, which is really strange. And these are the same screws. I've swapped places and everything, so I might just put a little dab of something back there just to hold that one in place. It's the only thing I can think of right now, because I don't believe I have a nut that's the right size, but you know what? I'm going to go check anyway. All right, I just found a larger screw to fit into that hole up there, and I think that that will work, so at least it won't come loose. It can be undone, and I don't need to worry about, you know, damaging anything. Okay, so this is loose, that is tight, all is well. So before I get this back on the machine, I need to bring it over here and put the thread take-up lever on to the machine and get myself situated. So give me a few minutes to organize my life here, and I'll bring the machine over. Okay, so right here, if I turn the wheel, you can see where all of that's going on. That's where I need to put my thread take-up lever. I'm going to go ahead and put some oil in this little groove here. Probably putting it up here would work better. Okay, lots of oil, you know, because a little is great, a lot is even better. I'm gonna stick this in here, raise it up. Here's my massive bolt, and get that situated. I need to make sure I screw it on to the shoulder of that bolt so it doesn't bind up. And that feels pretty good. Hang on one sec, let me raise you out of my way. I really can't wait for that motor to, or that power supply to get here and everything, so I can try her out. I am very nervous that maybe I've done something. All right, I'm thinking that that is good. So there is a little door here. Here it is. And this little, oh, that's what it was. That little door is the nut. Okay, let me get the other screw back out, and I'm gonna put it in here because this is what keeps that little thing cinched up. So if this door, I'm putting it so that the little oil, I'm guessing that's an oiling hole, circle is up on the top. This goes through everything, and this little flat part here is my nut on the back. So I'm going to have to move you out of the way so I can do this without dropping anything. But that's how it's going to go. Okay, so that is on there now. Everything's secure, original screw and everything. But before I can button this up here, put some oil on that little post. Again, this one, when I'm looking at it, I can see that little C. This hole needs to go over this. And that thread take-up lever slides in here. Carefully. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna probably have to tip this up on its back. I'm dropping things everywhere. Lifting that up so it's in line. Is it on? That. I feel like this is bent in or something, so I'm going to loosen this screw just a hair so it's a bit flexible. There. Okay. We're on. We are on. We are on. All right. Oh my gosh. I'm dropping things everywhere, but I can't let go. I have a screw here. I'm guessing it is this one. Let's see. I can't let go at this point. No, it can't be that one. Okay. I've also got this screw over here. Could this be it? No, it's not. Okay, it must be the largest one. So let me pull this out. Is this it? Please be the right one. I've only got 3 screws to choose from, so it's got to be one of them. I don't even know if you can see. I'm just focusing so much on trying to keep this from coming apart while I'm holding on to it. Okay, so with just that one screw on, if I turn, yes, the needle bar goes up and down and the thread take-up lever goes up and down. So I believe I'm good there. Now, in the back here is a place for another screw to go in. Down here, I believe it is this longer one. That's really tight. Can I still turn it? Yes. And you can see needle bars going up and down. That's going up and down. That still feels tighter. That still feels looser. That's still reverse. That's still, actually, this is reverse. Sorry. Okay, so that is still good. Oh. Did this have a, I think this had an extra little mounting screw on here. Sometimes this little hole is for mounting accessories on. It might have had that. That might have been what this one was off by itself. I couldn't remember what it was for. I'm going to call it that. So the last thing is a plate. Just going to go in here. Okay, there it is. I need to clean it up, and then we just need to sit and wait on Central Michigan sewing stuff to send the piece that I need for the power cord in order to get the foot pedal hooked up, and then we'll see how she works. I put a piece of fabric under here and just hand turning the wheel. Remember, turning away from me is forwards. It's sewing beautifully. It is sewing absolutely beautifully. The tension is even perfect, so that is fabulous. Okay, so welcome back. It's been a few days, and I got the power cord in, and let me see if I can turn this on. That's a switch. Okay, so you can see her brand new little LED light in there is working great. I had to tweak a few things on her to make her work. Now, I want to point out something. Do you remember way back at the beginning of this video when I was showing you how I opened the spring a little bit so I could get this motor to fit into the bracket? So those are crazy heavy duty springs. Well, ooh, got dirt on there. I think that by doing that, I weakened the tension in the spring a little bit. Just a little bit, but just enough. I just unplugged it. That's okay. But just enough that this wasn't pushing really, really hard up against here. And this is a new rubber bushing wheel thing. This one wasn't bad, but while I was ordering power cord, I got this too. So what I did is I came down here and I made a little rubber bumper. And there's a piece in the bracket right there that I could shove it into. You know, I was toying with the idea of, oh, I should take the whole thing apart and really try to get that spring in tighter, but I don't think I could. I mean, I've had a cold the last several days, so I'm not thinking too straight now. But when I didn't have a cold, I couldn't get it in. So I think trying to do it now would be bad. But if you can see, it's just a little red bumper. See, sorry about that. And what I did is I have some marine grade shrink tube that was red, and it has like this adhesive stuff in the middle, and I just did a couple layers of it. So this is a piece that I cut out. So I ended up with like 4 layers of the really thick marine grade shrink tubing, and I wanted it hard so that it wouldn't smush together and everything, so that it would hold that spring well. And it's working, so I'm happy with that. And I really hammered it in, so that's not going to come out. So there's the new power cord. And it does have a foot pedal down at the bottom. Now this does turn the opposite. So like a Singer, the wheel turns towards you. This is a white or Kenmore or whatever. It's going to turn away from you. Okay. And sometimes you might need to touch the wheel just to get it started. But hopefully not. You know, I'm thinking once it gets broken in, it's going to be fine. So let's see here. I have it at a pretty long stitch. I'm not touching it. Oh, there it goes. All right, so let's see here. So you can see the holes set up. And she is pretty quiet. She is pretty quiet. So that is a nice balanced stitch. Let me take it a little bit shorter. I had to do several adjustments on her off camera, but you know, that happens when you take a machine totally apart. Ooh, that's a very small stitch. Let's make that a little bit bigger. The vibration noise that you hear, it's mostly from this wheel engaging here. That's just the way it is. You know, it's fine. Oops, turn it away from me. It's fine. It's working. It's just, you know, is what it is. When I'm going to pull my thread out, I'm going to turn it so that this thread take-up lever is up, and then pull it out. So, yeah, this is the back. That's the front. It's working great. I think she's adorable. I might take her up to my sewing room and just play with her for a while. I am going to put her up for sale because, you know, I can't keep them all. And even though I do dearly love her, I can't keep them all, you know, because pretty soon it turns into hoarding. So if you're interested, look on my website. If not, that's okay because she's a little doll. Oh, and this is the bobbin winder. And when you're going to wind a bobbin, you push this in with your thumb, and that should, and I have to make that adjustment too, engage this little tire with the wheel. Okay, so it turns as this turns, and I'll make that adjustment in a second. All right, so, and then when it's done, you know, just back down, and it separates it. This video here. There you go, and down, and then re-engage it. Okay, all good. Okay, so like that, and then back down. So yeah, that's her. I'm gonna get her all cleaned up for her beauty shot. Sorry, this has taken a lot longer. I was out of town, and then I was missing the power cord, and then I got sick, and you know, life happens. But I'm back now, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Forgotten and alone, I touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued, she'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years of use, and let her sew again.